I want to tell you about another podcast I think you'd really like. It's called Chutzpah. Get it? As in chutzpah, but a podcast. It's hosted by the nationally known Rabbi Shira Stutman and Hannah Rosen, a veteran public radio journalist and host of Radio Atlantic. Each week, Rabbi Shira and Hannah answer your questions through a Jewish lens. Is it okay to spoil your grandchildren? What do you do when your family's fighting about Israel? And are thruples kosher? Get the answers to those questions and more on Chutzpah, Real Life Lived Better. Hey everyone, Noam here. In case you missed it, Unpacking Israeli History is coming to Chicago on June 8th for our first ever live show, and I am so thrilled to finally announce our very special guest. And it is Dr. Michael Oren, best-selling author, historian, and politician, and his book on the Six-Day War in 1967 was so important. It has inspired me, it has educated me. I have learned so much from it, and I'm so excited to talk to him about that book and about Israeli history in general. We will be unpacking some of the most pressing questions around Israeli history, around Israeli identity and the future together, on stage, live. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. I want to see you all there. Grab your tickets now with the link in the show notes, or just go straight to Ticketmaster.com. Just search Unpacking Israeli History. And if you use the discount code UIHCHI, you can get 20% off your tickets. I'll say it one more time. Use the coupon code UIHCHI. And if you're not in Chicago, don't you worry. We got you. We're visiting a few other cities this year, so stay tuned. Chicago, yalla. Let's do this.
Shavuot is very different. It's obligation. It's commandedness. It's what it means to wake up and to feel yourself called by God, commanded by God. It's actually about this covenant with an invisible God that we cannot see.
Hey everyone, welcome to Wondering Jews with Mijal and Noam.
I'm Mijal.
And I'm Noam, and we are so excited to have a conversation today about Shavuot. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you reach out to us, that you know where to reach out to us. Mijal, where do people reach out to us? Do you remember?
And make sure you reach out to us at wanderingjews@unpacked.media.
Everyone should know that email address, especially the two of us. But today, I am excited to have a conversation with you about a holiday known as Pentecost.
That's the name in English. I was actually trying to remember. Pentecost. It's one of those English translations of Hebrew words that are never used unless you're trying to translate. Like how do you translate the fill-in? Phylacter or something?
Phylacteries.
Right. So it's one of those words that it's almost like the translation is deeply unhelpful.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what it means unless you know what you're talking about.
That's definitely true. There's so many different names for the holiday of Shavuot. What are some of those names?
Well, Shavuot, which by the way means weeks, right? Shavuot is the way that people call the holiday, the most kind of like mainstream way. It's also known as Chag Matan Toratenu, which is the holiday in which we receive the Torah. There's other names, but
the Torah calls it Atzeret, right? The Torah calls it Atzeret.
The Torah calls it that, and also
which means the gathering of.
Yeah, and the Torah describes it very much as an agricultural holiday. It's later that it becomes known as the holiday of giving the Torah. But no, I'm just curious. I feel like in the large scheme of Jewish holidays, Shavuot is like the neglected Jewish holiday in American Jewry.
I think that's a pretty good call. It is pretty neglected. I mean, when you're going to compare it to Passover.
Right, or Hanukkah or Purim even.
Right, exactly. What about Sukkot versus Shavuot? Which one wins?
I was thinking about that. Sukkot, I think, wins more. I think people might not celebrate it fully, but they have this idea of like a hut.
Where they see the hut, and maybe that's part of it. It's kind of like there's nothing that, like Passover, you got the matzah. Sukkot, you got the hut and the lulav, and the etrog, the four species. Like you have like there are rituals in these other holidays.
Right, and it's funny. I've actually done this experiment a bunch of times in which I tell people, okay, Shavuot, if you heard about it, which not everybody has, right. What's your one word association? Do you want to guess, Noam, what the one word is? Cheesecake.
Right, yeah.
I have heard this so many times of people who are like, cheesecake. It's like the holiday of cheesecake. And that's a little bit hilarious because we do it cheesecake, but cheesecake is like a custom based on like a midrash rabbinic teaching. Right. It's almost like a convoluted. And then it's like, why do we eat cheesecake? And no one really knows. It's cheesecake.
It's like this holiday that's looking for meaning to be redeemed. It's like, what is this holiday about? I asked recently, it's not like every day I teach about Shavuot, but last week in my community here in South Florida, I did teach about Shavuot, and I asked the question, what is it about? What is Shavuot about? And the first answer that someone gave, they're like a very knowledgeable Torah scholar. So they're like, it's about an agricultural theme of bringing the bikurim, the first fruits. I was like, well done. Well done. Very good. And someone else was like, no, I thought it's about receiving the Torah. I'm like, well, okay, interesting. I get it. But a lot of us, if I really was like, okay, what is Shavuot about? You would then start pointing to, I think, two things. One is the custom to study Torah all night, right? That's like one thing that people have done. And the other thing is cheesecake. It's like, that's what it's about.
So now I actually want to make an argument that this is not only a holiday that's looking for meaning, but actually we need to understand why it's neglected. Because the reason that it's neglected tells us a lot about what it actually is. But beforehand, can I just ask you, since you just taught your crew in South Florida, can you just give like a basic introduction about Shavuot? Because what you just reflected on is the fact that there is a biblical description of what the holiday is, and then the holiday took on different meanings, as time passed throughout the rabbinic period. Okay,
so I'll just describe it very briefly from my understanding of it. Been celebrating it for a solid 39, by the way. So I hope I have something to say here. So actually, in the Torah reading, we talk about a lot of different Jewish holidays. And in the Torah reading, it says, hey, Passover is on this day. Then it says Yom Kippur is on that day. Then it says Sukkot is on this day, whatever the days are. With Shavuot, it's interesting. It doesn't do that. It actually says Mimachorat Shabbat, and the day after Shabbat is what the verse says. Count 49 days from here and 7 weeks, and then you will have something called Atzeret. You will have, at the end of these 49, 50 days really is what it says. You will have this opportunity to have Atzeret, and that's what the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, says it is. That's all it says about Shavuot. Shavuot means weeks. That's what it means. It says to count Sheva Shabbatot, 7 Shabbatot, whatever that means. And then there was this fascinating debate
from around Passover, but debate is exactly which day.
Passover, right. But what is the day? And the Karaites, who are a community that has
we should one day do something on the Karaites now.
100%. They're so interesting.
I love the Karaites.
They're really, really interesting. They're around 30 to 40,000.
Can we interview a Karaite? I've met some and I've loved learning, like talking to them.
I once went to a high school growing up, and in that high school, there was a Karaite that went to this high school. And it was really, really interesting. There's a community of them in Northern California. There's another community of them in Israel. And they're people who reject that the oral Torah has any...
It actually totally ties to our conversation on Shavuot, by the way.
Okay, this is perfect. Amazing. So in the debate that took place is the Hebrew Bible says the day after Shabbat, Shabbat, the day after Shabbat is when you start counting until you get to Atzeret. And the rabbis translate that Mimachorat Shabbat, the day after Shabbat. Shabbat is known as lots of Shabbat. We think of it as the seventh day, but in the Hebrew Bible, it describes Shabbat as Yom Kippur is described as Shabbat. Shabbaton is what it says. And so the commentators always viewed Mimachorat Shabbat, meaning the day after the first day Pesach. They translate Pesach as Shabbat, Passover as Shabbat. And so a huge debate took place between the Karaites and the rabbinic Jews, what Jews call themselves as just Jews, but Karaites refer them as rabbinic Jews. Maybe there's a debate here. Okay, good conversation. Fair enough. And this is what we have as Shavuot. The rabbi said this is when the Jewish people received the Torah.
Well, could we pause 1 second? 1 second. I just want to pull something out from what you said that I actually think is really critical to understand.
Okay.
No matter who you are, whether you're Orthodox or Reform, Sephardic, Ashkenazi, whoever you are today, unless you're a part of like a tiny community of Karaites, but like 99%, let's say, of Jews around the world, we have inherited rabbinic Judaism. Correct. That means that we didn't just, I'm holding here like the Hebrew Bible, we didn't just inherit what the Hebrew Bible wrote, we also inherited the way that it was interpreted by the rabbis. Now, some agreed with that more than others, but like we inherited that paradigm. And you're telling us that the Torah, the Bible, doesn't really tell us much about Shavuot. It just describes it as like 1 day, 7 weeks after Passover, roughly. And it kind of frames it in agricultural terms. Yeah. And then the rabbis really, the sages of the Talmud, the Mishnah and the Talmud, really give it a whole new way of understanding. And they describe it as the day in which we receive the Torah.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. I want to get to that, how that happened, what the meaning of it all is. That's what I want to ask you about. I want to remind myself that like we are an agricultural people.
You're a farmer, Noam.
I'm a farmer. I don't know how to be a farmer.
Behind the mask of a podcaster.
I want to be a farmer. I don't know how to be a farmer, but like at our roots, this is what we are. We need to reclaim that. That's what we need to do.
I was helping lead a retreat in Vermont Berkshires a few weekends ago. And it was so stunning and so beautiful. And I was reading the Torah portion of Emor, which describes all the holidays through like the agricultural context and looking around me. And I'm like, this is the way to actually understand much of biblical and ancient Israel and the way we used to live.
Yeah.
By the way, a lot of the way to understand the rabbis is that they are writing both in a way that is deeply tied to their past, but also many of them are like in exile and they're experiencing a different, like they might not be bringing the first fruits to the temple, right? But no matter where you are, you can still celebrate the revelation. So the rabbis look at Shavuot, right? And they say, Shavuot is the holiday in which we receive the Torah.
Yeah, 100%.
I want to find actually the passage in the book of Exodus in which I want to just read it out loud. I think it's powerful.
Certainly old school.
What's old school? Opening a book?
No. The Hebrew Bible and like reading from it directly.
Yeah, I missed you in the episode with Rabbi Alex Israel.
It was really good.
Thank you.
It was really good. And I got some people reaching out being like, that is a good teacher. I'm like, yeah, I know.
He's such a good teacher. And also like, it's so hard to explain, like, what is the Hebrew Bible? And I'm like, he does such a good job. So I'm just going to read to you a little bit. And I'm reading from like a Koran translation, just those who care to know what translation. So this is what...
I want to know which person is going to be like, hey, Mijal, which translation did you use? And like be upset.
There might be one.
There might be one person.
But for that one person, this is for you. Okay. So just to remind all of us, the rabbis basically look at what I'm going to read and they say this is what happened on Shavuot. Okay. On the first day of the third month after the Israelites had left Egypt, they come to the Sinai desert. Setting out from a place called Rephidim, I'm going to put words here and there. They had arrived at the Sinai desert and camping in the wilderness, and there Israel camped facing the mountain while Moshe went up to God. So Moshe is up, at Sinai. And then the Lord called out to him from the mountain, and he says the following. And Noam, I have described this. I don't know how you've taught this, but I have described this as like one of the closest articulations that we get to like the mission statement of the Jewish people.
I like a good mission statement.
I'll also tell you, like, I can be a little bit pedantic in some ways.
No.
I'm always careful when I teach that until this moment, like in Genesis and Exodus, I say Israelites or like the children of Jacob.
Okay.
After Sinai, I say the Jewish people because I really believe there's like a covenant that is happening at this moment. This is the moment in which we shift from being, a group of like an ethnic group alone into an ethnic group with a covenantal relationship with God. So here's the mission statement. So God is telling Moses to say to the people.
Wait, here we go. This is like a big deal. Here's the mission statement. This is
a big deal. Yeah.
Let's do it.
It says, this is what you shall say to the house of Jacob, what you shall tell the people of Israel. You yourself have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I lifted you up on eagle's wings and brought you to me. Now, if you faithfully heed my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasure. Am segula, okay? My treasure among all the people, although the whole earth is mine. A kingdom of priests and a holy nation you shall be to me. These are the words you must speak to the Israelites. We are told, by the way, that something happens that is very weird for Jews to do, which is that Moses comes and gives this speech to the Israelites, and a verse or so later, it says, the people answered as one. Even just that phrase that there was Jewish consensus, I'm like, this is hard to believe, but the people answered as one. All that the Lord has spoken, we will do. They're basically like, yep, we're in. We are part of your covenant.
Love it. How did the Jewish people do with that one?
What do you mean?
I mean, how have we done as a people?
Are you saying how have we lived up to this covenant?
Yeah.
Oh, not super great.
Okay.
Not super great. I mean, listen, less than 40 days after Moses gives them the first tablets and we have this covenant, the Israelites, not all of them, but like a small group, a visible group, basically go ahead and like break a bunch of laws by committing idolatry, basically cheating on God, like right after this covenant happens. So it's not super great. And at the same time, Noam, I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
We are sitting here in 2025 about to celebrate Shavuot, and our people have done this in awful times, in amazing times, and in complicated times like our times.
Yeah.
And I feel, I don't know, I almost like want to take this book and like turn to God and see.
We're still doing it.
We are doing this.
We got you.
We're not perfect, but we are doing this. Which
wait, can you just say the mission statement in your own words now?
Okay, I think it has different parts. Let me try to break it down. One part of it is actually saying we have a shared past.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I took you out of Egypt. We're not coming to this, with nothing. I'm thinking, by the way, individually for myself, when I think about my relationship with God, I mean, like, God created me. There's like a relationship. It's not in a vacuum. A different part of the mission statement is that it demands something, right? It's basically saying, like, I'm going to give you some things to do, right? You're going to have commandments and covenants to do. Another part of it is that it's bilateral. So think about any loving relationship. It's not usually a one-way street. So here God says, I'm going to have a ton for you guys to do, but guess what? The whole earth is mine. And you're going to be, some people say chosen people, that is not here. The word used is treasured. Am segula. We can talk about what that means, but it's like, you're going to be mine. It's something very, I would even say like tender, about this relationship.
Like treasure is something that I hold dearly, that like I want to take care of. That's what a treasure is.
Yeah, there's like a cherish. Yeah.
Yeah, cherish this. Exactly.
Yeah,
okay.
I think there's something there. Like, I don't know, when I read it, I'm like imagine if the covenant here is like, okay, you're going to have to keep all these things and it's hard. But imagine like the creator of the world treasuring you.
Right.
And that is almost like, wow. To get a taste of that is like to get a taste of eternity, right? It's very powerful.
Yeah.
And then for me, the other part that I love here is that I'll mention two other parts. One of them is that there's something very aspirational. It's not just, some people assume that, that the Torah says, oh, if you're born to the Jewish people, that's like good enough. Like, no, God has a mission for you. You're going to be like a nation of priests and a holy nation. And different commentators, by the way, say when it says a nation of priests, you have to think priests are servants. They serve the people. So it's almost like God says, you're going to have to represent something in the world and serve the world in some way by representing this.
I mean, there are words there that you're not saying right now, but there are words that are like, I'm associating with this, are like, there's a responsibility now. There's work to be done. Meaning it's not just a top-down sort of thing, like you are now this thing. It's the opposite in many ways. Like you now have an opportunity and responsibility, and in any relationship, there's got to be something that you're going to give to the relationship, and of course that you're going to take, but be very conscious of how much withdrawing you're doing versus how much depositing you're doing.
Yeah, and I would say there also, like you spoke about responsibility. A different time we can talk about like chosenness. I think it's like a really big topic. Yeah,
we have to.
But I will say, like, on one foot, and I'm not like, we're not giving this justice, but I think that Jewish philosophy or Jewish points of view, and even non-Jews, when they talk about this, some of them look at chosenness and they think of it as something very exclusivist and very intrinsic. Like, you're born into this, and so you think you're chosen. Mm-hmm. And some Jews would say this. A couple of days ago now, I went to buy some groceries around the corner, and it was like a Jewish small grocery store in my neighborhood. And the owner turns to me at one point and starts talking to me in Hebrew. And I respond. And then he's like, how did I know that you would know Hebrew? And then he says something like, there's something in my Jewish soul that recognizes your Jewish soul. And my brain is like, okay, that's interesting. That's like a very essentialist, almost like I would say mystical view. And then there's a different way that I'm actually advocating for here, in which to be a Jew and to be part of this covenant is actually to be given a responsibility, and you have to live up to it. One metaphor that I heard that I want to share with you, Noam, I believe I heard this from Rabbi Shai Held like 1,000,000 years ago. I believe it was him who said...
I'm in a fanboy for a second, such a brilliant theologian.
Yes, Noam, he's so great. But there's one way to think about Judaism, which Judaism is like the hardware, right? And one in which it's like the software. Does that make sense? Can
you describe what that means?
Well, hardware, it's something almost like physical, intrinsic. You don't have to do anything. It just is. And software is like you have to like install it. You have to make it work. You have to use it for things. And I would say maybe like not Microsoft Word that you can only use for some things. I want to think about it more expansively.
Okay.
But my point
Google Chrome.
Sure. This is not my strong suit. But my point going back to this mission statement is that I think there's something here. Use the word responsibility, that God is giving us a vision. And God is saying there's this thing. And it's not easy, by the way. It's not for the faint of heart. I think Jews have suffered greatly We have suffered greatly and we have struggled with this. So now so let me go back to a question that I started with is like, why is Shavuot not super well known? And one reason that we can give is, okay, like we don't know all the holidays well, or like it's not the one with the most ritual practice or things like that. By the way, we still have to explain why we eat cheesecake. But I actually want to argue that part of the reason it's not known or observed so much, it's because it's so countercultural, right? Like think about Passover.
Okay.
Passover fits in pretty well with the moral matrix of the West, in which we talk about liberation and freedom and oppression. And those are themes that are like very comfortable. Shavuot is very different. The themes here are about this. It's like God, it's obligation, it's commandedness. It's what it means to wake up and to feel yourself called by God, commanded by God, and being told by God, I actually have a blueprint for how you should live your life. It's not about following your heart, okay? It's not about following that liberation story. It's actually about this covenant with an invisible God that we cannot see. And it's not an easy one. It's one that asks a lot out of us. So that to me, I've been leaning in a lot this year on the fact that Shavuot is not so well known because it's hard. And I'm saying that because I think that for those of us who want to observe it or explore it, we need to contend with that because there's power in it. There's something very powerful in Shavuot, which is why I think it can be difficult, in a different culture.
Because you're saying it's countercultural in a way that the liberation movement is a movement we could all rally behind in the Western world. But the movement to say, I'm commanded to do something, I'm part of something specific, is something that it's more countercultural and therefore harder to fraternize around or harder to persuade people to be part of that.
I will also say, so I'll quote an anthropologist whose work has really inspired me, Richard Schroeder. He researched different societies around the world, and he looked at them and he looked at like the moral languages. He used the word ethic that they would use. And after visiting from India to Brazil, all of these places, he identified 3 ethics, 3 moral languages.
Yeah.
One of it is the moral language of autonomy. That's individualism. That's very much the liberal West. It's like, be authentic to yourself, think about what you want, follow your dreams, all of that. A different moral language is the moral language of collectivism. It's about the group, about solidarity. That one, I think, is probably secondary in the liberal West, but it's still very much part of our, it's a conversation we can have. You don't have to be religious or Jewish to talk about that.
Absolutely.
But then there's the ethic of divinity, right? In which how often do we talk about a God that is absolute, all-knowing, all-powerful, a creator that commands and that invites to relationship. And he described in his work about how that's still an ethic that flourishes, for example, like in India or some other countries. But that ethic is very, very foreign, I would say, to the liberal West. We speak about God and spirituality often in ways that are very individualistic.
Yeah.
It's like this is different. I think there's something very potent here for us to really confront.
I like that idea. I think you're probably right. I do think that the ritual aspect of it is part of it as well. And I think it's part of the cheese thing of we've invented a ritual to associate ourselves with Shavuot. The rabbis also brought in the concept of the revelation taking place at this time. But the only question I guess I have on your thesis.
Yeah, but why do we eat cheesecake now?
I think there's some answers to this question that I remember. One is, this is really inside baseball, but Chet, Lamed, and Bet, you know this, equals...
So the 3 letters of dairy,
the 3
chalav?
letters, chalav, which means milk, equals 40. And 40 is the number of days that Moses was up there. So that's the one thing. Another answer is the Jewish people didn't have the laws of kosher at this time. And so therefore, in order to stay away from making a mistake of having meat and milk together, therefore they only had dairy at this time. And so therefore they're like, okay, we won't do meat. We're just going to do dairy.
There's some connections with Israel flowing with milk and honey.
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's all flowing with milk and honey. That's another one.
And something about the teeth of children learning. So shina chalav. So it's something about children learning Torah. All these things.
I want to say something about cheesecake that might be unpopular, and I feel awkward saying it, but this is a This is a brave space. And so I'm going to go for it.
We went from like God being unpopular to like cheesecake commentary.
I don't love
being
cheesecake
unpopular.
typically. I said it. I don't love it. I have to find a unique cheesecake for me to love. I don't love cheesecake.
Okay, folks, send Noam your recommendations of the best cheesecake.
I just don't love it. It's a lot of cream cheese in it.
I don't like cream cheese, but I like cheesecake.
Oh, that's interesting. I like cream cheese, but don't love cheesecake.
There we go.
Okay.
But okay, I guess I want to just encourage all of us as we go into Shavuot.
Yeah.
Whether you've been observing it for 39 years, like Noam has, or whether you're curious to learn more, I think it's really worthwhile to try to understand what it means to have experienced revelation, right? To have experienced this moment in which God spoke to us. And I actually want to recommend 2 books.
Okay.
3 books I want to recommend in case you want some reading on this. And we'll put them in the show notes because I forgot their titles. So I'll just tell you what they are and who wrote them, and then we'll put them.
Okay.
But first one is a collection of essays by Abraham Joshua Heschel. And that collection includes a lot of essays that are easier to read than his books, I think, and talk about what it means to like relate to God. And Heschel
Abraham Joshua Heschel, major theologian.
Yeah, major theologian. And that I found the collection of essays a very accessible way to understand a theology of wonder, what it means to have wonder before God and revelation. Second book I want to recommend, and a different day I want us to discuss it more, Noam, is a book called...
Do you just like it because of wonder in Jews?
No, that's not why. But I should have said that.
Maybe that's why.
That
Continue. Sorry.
Second book is a new book that just came out like last month called Believe by Ross Daudat. I'm mispronouncing that. But it's a really intriguing book in which he basically gives a rational way for those who are curious about belief and religion to feel like they can explore it without leaving rationality behind. He writes it from his own perspective. He's a Catholic, but he writes it in a way that I think is worthwhile for anyone who's either a person of faith or someone who's exploring God to kind of read.
Amazing.
And the third recommendation is, we didn't get to it, but we read the scroll of Ruth on Shavuot, and that scroll is magnificent.
Magnificent. Oh, I have a book to recommend on that.
Okay, I was actually going to recommend not a book, but a podcast. I'm going to put links to Rabbi Alex Israel's podcast on Ruth, because it's only 4 chapters, and it's so magnificent. A different day, again, we should study it. So many references here. No, different episodes we have to do. But what's your book on Ruth that you're going to recommend?
I got it right in front of me. Bam. Reading Ruth by Leon Kass.
I did not know he had a book like this.
Oh, it's very good.
I read his Genesis and Exodus. I did not read
very good. I really like it.
I am going to buy it right now.
It's short.
I'm so excited. Seriously.
It's really good. And I realized that I read it on a Shabbat a couple years ago because I dog-eared the pages. You see that? And I didn't get a chance to put in my notes. Anyway, so yeah, listen, have a meaningful Shavuot, have a revelatory experience. The revelation continues.
Enjoy not eating cheesecake.
Well, no, by the way, I'm going to eat cheesecake. I love dairy. I didn't get this. I love pizza. You know this. I love bagels, cream cheese, and lox. By the way, we didn't say this yet, but Ruth, did the Sephardim read it on?
Not the way the Ashkenazim do.
Yeah, we read it, but you
like read it.
Oh, read it.
Yeah. Actually, I was having a conversation with someone, tried to understand why the difference is, and I attributed it with no rhyme or reason to Sephardic Jews wanting to have faster services. But
I like it.
But that's only some types of Sephardic Jews, not others. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, anyway, have a meaningful holiday. Chag Sameach, as they say.
Chag Sameach.
And we'll speak soon, for sure.
Wandering Jews with Mijal and Noam is a production of Unpacked, a division of OpenDor Media.
Subscribe to Wandering Jews wherever you're listening to this pod and follow Unpacked at all the social media places. Just look for @JewishUnpacked.
Email us at our new and improved email address, wanderingjews@unpacked.media. That's wanderingjews@unpacked.media. This episode was hosted by me, Michal Biton.
And me, Noam Weissman.
Hona Dodge is our researcher, Rob Farah is our audio editor.
And we are produced by Michael Weber. Hey guys, Noam here. Do you like to wonder? Are you curious? Then you've come to the right place. Check out The Portion, a weekly newsletter from Judaism Unpacked. It's a great read for all our Wandering Jews fans. It's fresh, it's thoughtful, and it's designed for anyone who wants to engage more with Jewish learning, even if you're not sure where to start. Whether you're deep in it or just wondering where to begin, The Portion gives you something meaningful to chew on every week. Follow @Judaism Unpacked and sign up at unpacked.media/Judaism. Again, that's unpacked.media/Judaism.